point where, at a macro level, a top-down level, we're starting to get to a stage where we can start to control the price of carbon. We can start putting a price on carbon. How big a difference, as it sort of trickles down to your business, would big changes like that make?
I think, thanks for having me here. I think in terms of what's happening in New York today is very interesting because you've got more than 1,000 companies and investors signing up to support climate change initiatives. So you're actually seeing big business wanting to take part.
Yep.
And the reason being is that we've seen carbon regulation over the last 10 years develop in terms of short-term policy initiatives that aren't necessarily efficient and has been affecting big business as well as renewables and other climate change legislation. So big business understands the science, it understands it needs to get there in the end. So big business needs to engage and start driving policy alongside with government.
But it's volatility out of government. It's driving. You talk to CEOs, and it's driving them bonkers because they think they've got their arms around what's going to happen, and then the politicians change the rules again. Are we going to see more sort of clear policies coming out that aren't going to change, that businesses can work with and actually start investing into?
I think what you need to see is a devolution of certain targets. So California set targets on carbon and then devolved administration and management of that to an authority. So it was outside the political influence. And then it achieves their carbon. California has a 15 cents per kilowatt hour price of power and a carbon price. So that's cheaper than the UK's power price and much cheaper than Europe's power price. So you can have success if you set a long-term target and then devolve that administration and management of the policy execution. The problem is if the policy keeps changing every 4 years and you have conflicting policy, a tariff and a carbon price, it doesn't work when you match it together.
You think that this should be run like a central bank, that we should actually take it out of politics?
Maybe not full package, but part package.
Right.
So a Reserve Bank, the Fed is a good example. Pre-70s, we didn't have central banks. We need an energy price. We need to keep energy prices low. We need to have grid stable, and we need to increase renewables to decarbonise. And you need an authority that manages those objectives, because building infrastructure, it's 20, 30 years decisions, not 4-year decisions. So you can't have short-term policy fluctuations.
How does it, just give me the nuts and bolts of how it affects your business. You want clarity, you want some sort of a long-term plan in place. When you are running your company and you work around the world, how does that affect what you actually do on the ground to provide storage, power solutions, etc., etc.?
So what you're saying, even though policy has been somewhat inefficient, you are seeing a long-term change. So solar prices have come down to almost be grid parity.
Grid parity now, almost,
So there is short-term gain for business in this field. So if you look at our business, we produce an energy storage system, and that is specialising in long-term and large-scale storage. So it's not a battery for your phone, and it's not a battery for a computer. It's a battery to couple with renewables to then allow the grid to receive power that is cheaper.
To manage the process, basically, the wind.
So PV plus storage, we can produce power for 15 cents per kilowatt hour, versus Germany's power price is 30 cents. Cents per kilowatt hour. A lot of islands in the world and all of Africa produces power for around €1 per kilowatt hour. So if you actually look at renewables plus storage, you can actually reduce the long-term cost of power, which is significant for short-term business gain. The second thing we do is in Africa is bring renewables to a lot of Africa that doesn't have energy.
Cool. We're going to have to leave it there. Time beats us, but interesting stuff. Scott McGregor, CEO of Camco Clean Energy.